Podcast introducing you to the great Christian music from Europe. In this episode, the spotlight is on Obros, German brothers redefining hip-hop through faith and collaboration.
Okay, so I want you to close your eyes for a second. Let's just do a little visualization exercise before we jump in today.
Uh-oh. Okay, I'm ready.
I want you to picture the absolute top tier of the German hip-hop scene right now, like the chart toppers.
Right.
The guys putting up millions of streams, selling out these huge arenas, really driving the culture. Got an image in your head.
I do. And I feel like I know where you're going with this, so I'm bracing for the curveball.
Good. Because, be honest, does that image you have involve two biological brothers who are classically trained musicians?
Definitely not.
Right. Oh, and by the way, one of them is a fully licensed dentist and the other is a business major.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say no. That is definitely not the standard archetype for the rap game. Usually, we're picturing tattoos, streetwear, maybe a slightly grittier backstory. Not exactly root canals and spreadsheets.
I mean, it sounds like a setup for a really bad joke, right? Like a dentist and a business major walk into a recording booth.
Yeah.
But this is actually the reality of the Obros. And today, we are doing a deep dive into how these two brothers from Munich, Maximilian and Alexander Oberschelp managed to do what sounds basically impossible on paper.
It really is a fascinating case study because we aren't just talking about, some quirky local band playing on weekends. We're talking about a duo that coined an entire genre called WorsHipHop, beat out 2,000 secular bands in a massive contest, and this is the crazy part, hit #1 on the mainstream German charts.
All rapping explicitly about Jesus.
Exactly.
And I don't mean vague, you are my light type of lyrics that could be about a girlfriend. I mean highly theological, direct biblical references.
Spot on. And looking at the stack of sources we have for you today, we've got music industry data, interviews, and even a really interesting sociological report on religious discrimination in Europe. You realize this isn't just a story about music.
No, not at all.
It's a story about culture, about resilience, and really what happens when this uncompromising faith just collides head-on with a very secular industry.
So the mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. We need to figure out how. How do you go from dental school to the top of the charts in a genre that usually, rewards street cred and hardness?
Right.
And honestly, I just want to know how they find time to tour while knowing how to do a filming.
It's got to be top-tier time management, but you're right, the contrast is what makes this whole story stick.
So let's start with the basics for everyone listening. Who are these guys? I assume Obros is just short for the Oberschelp brothers.
That's right. You have Maximilian, who was born in 1996, and Alexander, born in 1997. So they are incredibly close in age.
Basically Irish twins.
Pretty much. They basically grew up doing everything together. They're originally from the Munich area, though they have relocated and are based in Stuttgart now.
And you mentioned classical training earlier. That feels like a detail we really can't gloss over.
No, it's actually a crucial piece of the puzzle here. They aren't just guys who bought a laptop and downloaded a beat-making program one day. They understand music theory, they play instruments, they have that foundational knowledge of how music is actually constructed. They started releasing albums back in 2015 with a debut called R.A.P.
Very creative title.
Simple and to the point. But here's the thing that really stands out when you dig into the research. While they were grinding in the music scene, trying to build this career, they were simultaneously grinding through some of the absolute hardest academic paths you can take.
I still can't get over the dentist thing. I mean, dental school is not a side hustle. That is a massive, full-time, high-pressure commitment.
It really is. At the end of 2022, Maximilian successfully completed his state examinations in dentistry.
Wow.
And just a few months later, Alexander finished his degree in business administration.
That just creates such a weird cognitive dissonance. Usually in hip-hop, the come-up story is about escaping poverty or the hustle of the streets. These guys are coming from a place of, extreme discipline and professional stability.
And I think that discipline translates directly to their music. It's precise, it's technically proficient. They treat it with a level of professionalism that maybe you don't see in every underground group, but their big break, the actual moment that took them from local brothers rapping to a national phenomenon, happened before they even finished those degrees. We need to look at 2019 and the SPH Music Masters.
Yeah, I saw this in the news. This is a band battle, right?
It's the band battle. The SPH Music Masters is the largest band competition in German-speaking countries.
Okay.
We aren't talking about a local talent show at a community center where your mom is the judge. We are talking about an initial field of approximately 2,000 bands. Rock, pop, metal, hip-hop, everyone is competing.
And just to clarify for everyone, this is a secular competition. It's not some niche Christian battle of the bands.
Completely secular. It's the mainstream circuit. And the Obros didn't just enter. They survived round after round and won the entire 2018/2019 season.
Okay, but I want to double-click on this for a second because winning a contest sounds so nice and clean on paper. Like, congratulations, here's your trophy. But looking at the testimony video they released later, the actual experience of that finale sounds incredibly intense.
It was more like walking into a lion's den. You have to picture the scene. It's the grand finale. The venue is completely packed. The audience is there for rock, for metal, for secular rap. It's a very rowdy crowd.
Yeah.
And then two brothers come out and start explicitly rapping about their faith.
The sources mentioned the vibe turned hostile really fast.
Hostile is putting it mildly. The brothers described a visceral, physical rejection from a loud segment of the crowd. People were spitting at them while they were performing.
Spitting, wow.
Spitting, shoving near the front. They mentioned feeling genuine fear that bottles were going to be thrown or that the stage would literally be stormed.
That is a nightmare scenario for any performer. You're up on stage, you're vulnerable, the lights are blinding you, and you can see people who physically want to hurt you because of what you're saying. I feel like most people would just cut the set short or try to blend in, maybe skip the religious lyrics for a song or two.
Most would. But here's where you see the core of who the Obros are. They didn't retreat, and they didn't get aggressive back. Alexander described this moment in the video. He said he felt a supernatural peace come over him.
Really?
Yeah. In the middle of that chaos, instead of panicking, they decided to pray for the crowd.
Wait, like while they were on stage?
While on stage, right in the middle of the performance context, Alexander said he felt the Holy Spirit gave him the right words to say to address the aggression without escalating it, and they managed to finish the set.
That takes some serious nerve. And the crazy part is, not only did they finish...
They won. First place out of 2,000 bands. They won over enough of the crowd and the judges to take the whole title.
That is the ultimate underdog moment. But, it raises a big question for me. You can win a contest on shock value or technical skill. But to sustain a career, you need a sound that people actually want to listen to on Spotify on their commute.
Yeah.
They've branded their music as WorsHipHop.
Yes.
Now, I love a good portmanteau, but for the listener who hasn't heard it, what does that actually sound like? Is it literally just church hymns with a beat behind them?
No, and that's a misconception they have to fight constantly. WorsHipHop isn't cheesy. It's a seamless synthesis of high-energy, modern hip-hop. Think trap beats, fast flows, heavy bass, the kind of stuff that rattles your trunk, mixed with the thematic elements of classical Lobpreis music.
Lobpreis music. That's the German term for worship music. Right?
Exactly. It implies music specifically designed to praise God. The Obros call their style modern lyrical preaching, or in German, radical Anders Predigen.
Radically different preaching. I like that. It immediately frames the music as a vehicle for a very specific message.
Exactly. They identified a massive gap in the market, if you want to call it that. They saw that young people simply weren't going to church. They weren't hearing sermons from the pulpit. But everyone, and I mean everyone, listens to rap.
The stats definitely back that up. I was looking at the demographic data in the sources. Something like 80% of German youth aged 14 to 19 listen to German hip-hop. It is the dominant genre in the country by a mile.
Precisely. So the Obros aren't trying to drag kids back to a 19th century traditional church service. They are taking the theology and putting it into the medium that the culture already natively consumes. And this is where geography becomes really important to their story. Remember, we said they are based in Stuttgart now.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that. Why does that matter? Is Stuttgart a big music hub?
Stuttgart is a fascinating city because it holds this very unique dual identity. On one hand, it's the historical center of Swabian pietism.
Swabian pietism. Okay, break that down for us non-theologians.
Think of it as the Bible Belt of Germany. It's a region known for a very devout, serious form of Protestantism that heavily emphasizes personal piety and actively living out your faith. So you have that deep religious history embedded in the soil there.
Okay.
But on the other hand, Stuttgart is the absolute stronghold of the German rap scene. It's the home of massive mainstream artists like Crow and Bausa.
So it's the one place where hardcore religion and hardcore rap naturally coexist in the same city limits.
Exactly. The Obros are sitting right at that intersection. They are the natural product of that specific cultural environment. If they were from Berlin or Hamburg, this might not have happened the same way. In Stuttgart, you have the theological roots and the urban beats living right next door to each other.
That's a great insight. It makes it feel less random and more environmental. But let's look at the results, because we aren't talking about them selling CDs out of a trunk at a youth group gathering. We are talking about the official mainstream German charts.
The numbers are undeniable at this point. Their 2023 album, Underrated, reached #2 on the German album charts. That alone was a huge wake-up call for the industry. But then, their 2025 album, to be honest, hit #1.
Number one, in a country that is famously quite secular. That is wild.
It is historic for a Christian artist, and we mean decidedly Christian, not just spiritual or positive vibes, to top the secular charts in Germany is almost completely unheard of. It suggests that this worship hop isn't just a niche subculture anymore.
Right, it's breaking out.
It's competing with the big dogs. They are outselling mainstream pop acts.
And they aren't just staying in their German lane either. I saw in the notes that they pulled off a collaboration that kind of blew my mind. Lecrae.
Yeah, that was a massive signal of their ambition. Lecrae is the American giant of this genre, Grammy winner, head of Reach Records. He's arguably the most famous Christian rapper on the planet.
How did that even come about?
In September 2023, the Obers released a track with him called Going My Way. And if you listen to that track, it really encapsulates everything we've been talking about regarding their specific message.
I gave it a listen before we started recording. It's based on Psalm 23, right? The Lord is my shepherd.
That's the one. But listen to how they use it. The lyrics explicitly reference the line, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies." Now, think back to the SPH band contest finale we talked about earlier.
Oh, wow.
Think about them standing on stage, surrounded by people literally spitting at them, feeling that physical hostility.
Okay, that lyric hits a little harder now. It's not just a nice Bible verse to put on a coffee mug or a t-shirt. It's a literal description of their actual career experience.
Exactly. It's a song about perseverance in the valley of the shadow of death. And musically, the production on that track by Make the Maker is just top tier. It matches anything you'd hear on Top 40 radio.
Yeah, it hits hard.
That sonic richness is key. If the beat was weak, nobody would care about the message. But because the production is undeniable, people have to listen.
That brings up another point, the live experience. Because hip-hop is so much about the energy in the room. If you're two nice boys with graduate degrees, can you actually rock a crowd?
By all accounts, yes. They are very intentional about what they call the sensory experience, or in German, sinnliches Erleben.
Sinnliches Erleben. Fancy. What does that actually mean in practice for a concert goer?
It means they aren't just standing there rapping text at you. They use elaborate light shows, massive event effects, and deliberate dramatic tension. They are trying to create what they call powerful experience scenarios.
It sounds almost like they're trying to recreate the feeling of a huge, charismatic church service, that emotional swell, that feeling of something bigger than yourself, but doing it in a secular concert venue.
That's a very fair comparison. The goal is to lead the audience to an emotional or even transcendental experience. They aren't hiding the ball here. They want people to encounter God through the bass and the lights. They want it to be spiritual, not just standard entertainment.
But, and here's where the story gets really interesting, or maybe complicated is a better word.
Yeah.
You can't be this bold about your faith in the public square without attracting some lightning. We talked about the band contest, but that was really just the beginning of the pushback, wasn't it?
It was. Winning that contest put a huge target on their backs. After the SPH win, a video of them performing went viral online. And this triggered what in German they literally call a shitstorm.
I kind of love that that English word has just been fully adopted into the German language.
Yeah.
A massive internet backlash.
It was severe. And it wasn't just random anonymous trolls in the comment section. It was amplified by major media figures and comedians. Shahak Shapira shared their video with a caption that essentially joked, "I don't find the Islamic State so bad anymore," by comparison.
Whoa. Wait. Comparing two guys rapping about Jesus to ISIS, that's quite a leap.
It was hyperbolic, obviously intended as dark comedy, but the impact was very real. Jan Böhmermann, another huge satirist in Germany, jumped on it too. The Obros were suddenly receiving hate comments by the thousands, including actual death threats.
That is terrifying. Imagine you're a student, you're just finishing up your dentistry degree, you make some music with your brother, and suddenly the internet wants you dead because you won a band contest.
It highlights a very specific tension in European culture right now. And this brings us to a source we have that puts this into a much bigger context.
Yeah.
The OIDEC Report 2025.
Yeah, I saw this acronym in the notes. This is the Observatory on Intolerance and Discrimination Against Christians in Europe. It's a research-based NGO out of Vienna, right?
Yeah.
They actually mentioned the Obros in their report.
They did. They used the Obros as a specific documented case study for anti-Christian bias in the media.
What was their argument? Because clearly, a comedian making an edgy joke is one thing, but systemic bias is another. We want to make sure we're just conveying what the report says here.
Absolutely. The report argues that this backlash wasn't an isolated incident. They frame it as part of a broader trend where national media treats Christian artistic expression as inherently suspicious. The report explicitly states that the Obros were portrayed by national media not as artists, but as part of a covert proselytization strategy.
Covert proselytization.
Yeah.
So the framing from the media is that their music is essentially a trap. Like, come for the sick beat, stay for the indoctrination.
Exactly. The narrative pushed was that it was manipulative, that because these guys are highly educated and the production value is slick, it must be a trick to lure young people into religion rather than legitimate, authentic artistic expression. They were treated with a level of suspicion that secular artists don't generally face.
That's a really tough label to shake. If you're framed as having a secret agenda, everything you do looks sinister to the public. How did the brothers react to this massive media storm? Did they fight back? Did they try to sue?
Initially, they felt powerless. They talked about seeing articles in Juice magazine, which is the biggest hip-hop mag in Europe, that they felt completely misrepresented them. They knew they couldn't win a Twitter war against these massive media giants.
So what did they do? Did they consider quitting?
No. They went right back to their roots. They decided to pray for their haters.
Really? I feel like that's the textbook Sunday school answer, but did they actually do that in practice?
According to their own interviews, yes, that was their resolution. They decided that the approval of God mattered more to them than the approval of 100,000 people online. They essentially flipped the narrative for themselves. Instead of seeing themselves as victims of cancel culture, they viewed the hate as confirmation.
Confirmation of what exactly?
That they were doing something genuinely disruptive, that they were shaking up the status quo. If people are that angry, it means you're challenging something fundamental. They used it as fuel to become what they call European hip-hop pioneers, who are just unapologetically bold about what they believe.
That resilience is impressive.
Yeah.
It's one thing to say, haters gonna hate on a podcast, but it's another to actually pray for the people sending you death threats and then go drop a #1 album.
It connects right back to that WorsHipHop identity. If you deeply believe you are doing something for a higher purpose, the criticism lands differently. It doesn't sting the ego in the same way because you've decided it's not about your ego, it's about the mission.
So let's zoom out a bit and look at the big picture here.
Okay.
We have two brothers, highly educated, a dentist and a business grad, classically trained, navigating a pretty hostile cultural environment to top the charts. Why does this matter to the listener who might not care at all about German rap or Christianity?
It matters because it represents a tangible shift in youth culture. The Obros represent a new confidence in young Christians in Europe. For a long time, the dominant narrative has been that religion in Europe is dying out, or at the very least hiding. It's supposed to be entirely private.
Right, the vibe is keep it to yourself. Don't bring it to the club, don't bring it to the charts.
Exactly. But these guys are bridging the gap between the church and the street beat. They are proving that you can be squeaky clean, literally licensed medical professionals, and still command respect and attention in a genre completely obsessed with street cred. They are redefining what cool looks like for an entire generation of young believers.
It is a fascinating reversal of expectations. In a music industry that thrives on realness and often glorifies a really hard lifestyle, drugs, money, violence, you have two brothers singing about Bible verses.
And succeeding. That's the key takeaway. They aren't doing it in a church basement. They're doing it at the #1 spot on the charts.
And here is a provocative thought to leave you with today. We usually think of counterculture or punk rock as being anti-establishment, breaking all the rules, offending polite society. But in 2026, in a hyper-secularized Europe, is it possible that being a pair of clean-cut brothers who love Jesus and their mom is actually the most countercultural thing you can be?
It certainly disrupts the system more than just another song about partying would. It challenges the established norm more than anything else currently playing on the radio.
It really does. Whether you agree with our message or not, you have to admit, they are shaking things up. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.
Always a pleasure to be here.
We'll catch you on the next one. Keep exploring.
Christian Music Europe.